you didn't lose your spark. You learned how to protect it. There was a time when you pushed harder, explained more, stayed longer than you should have, not because it felt right, but because you were afraid that stepping back meant giving up. Now you know better. You've realized that restraint isn't weakness, it's awareness. You don't react to every invitation. You don't chase every possibility. You pause long enough to ask a quieter question. Does this actually fit the life I'm building? That question changes everything. You begin to notice how your body responds before your mind catches up. Ease when something aligns, tension when it doesn't. And instead of arguing with that signal, you listen. This phase isn't loud, it's deliberate. You're choosing quality over quantity, direction over speed, stability over intensity. You're not closing doors out of fear, you're closing them out of clarity. And the more you do, the more natural it feels to trust yourself again. Something is reorganizing beneath the surface, not rushed, not forced, still open. As you lean into this clarity, you start noticing how different your energy feels. You're no longer scattered across too many directions. You're more contained, more intentional. You don't feel the need to prove momentum. You trust it will show up when it's real. You've also become more honest with yourself about what drains you, about what excites you, about what you've been tolerating out of habit instead of alignment. That honesty simplifies things. You stop overcommitting. You stop explaining your boundaries. You stop mistaking urgency for importance. Instead, you let your attention settle where it feels most alive. You're learning that peace isn't passive. It's something you choose repeatedly, especially when old patterns try to pull you back into noise. And when that happens, you don't panic. You recognize it as part of the process. You're building trust with yourself again, not by getting everything right, but by responding more thoughtfully when things feel off. This phase isn't about fixing your life. It's about listening closely enough to guide it. Something continues to form here, quietly, intentionally, still moving, not finished yet.
With this steadiness growing, you stop needing constant reassurance. You don't look outside yourself for confirmation the way you used to. You check in, you listen, you decide. That inner reference point is becoming stronger. You notice how much less you explain your choices, not because you're hiding, but because you're no longer unsure. You trust your reasoning. You trust your timing. You trust that clarity doesn't need an audience. There's also a new relationship forming with uncertainty. You don't rush to eliminate it, you let it coexist with progress. You move forward even when everything isn't mapped out, not recklessly, but deliberately. You understand now that confidence isn't about knowing every outcome, it's about knowing you'll respond well to whatever shows up. Your days feel more grounded. Your decisions feel less emotionally loaded. You're not swinging between extremes anymore. You're centered. And because of that, you're more discerning about where your energy goes. You choose conversations that add depth. You disengage from dynamics that rely on tension. You recognize when something costs more than it gives. You don't force harmony, you allow alignment. This phase is teaching you self-respect, not as a concept, but as a practice. Still unfolding, still shaping you, not complete yet. As this self-respect settles in, you begin to experience time differently. You're not rushing to catch up. You're not anxious about falling behind.
You understand that your pace is part of your design. You also stop measuring progress by visible results alone. You notice subtler shifts, how quickly you recover, how clearly you say no, how calmly you stay when things don't go as planned. Those changes matter. You're building stability that isn't dependent on circumstances. Even when things are uncertain, you remain anchored. You don't over-identify with setbacks. You don't inflate small wins. You stay balanced. That balance gives you space to think clearly, to respond instead of react, to choose what aligns rather than what distracts. You're also becoming more comfortable with silence, not filling gaps with explanations, not rushing to resolve discomfort. You let things breathe. And in that space, you notice truth surfacing on its own. What once confused you starts to feel obvious. What once felt heavy begins to loosen. You're not forcing insight, you're allowing it. This phase isn't loud, it's precise. Still in motion, still shaping you. Not finished yet. With this calm becoming familiar, you start to recognize how much less effort life requires when you stop resisting yourself. You don't wake up bracing for the day. You wake up aware of your limits, aware of your capacity, aware of what deserves your attention and what doesn't. You're no longer trying to be everywhere at once. You're choosing presence over pressure. You allow yourself to move through moments without labeling them immediately. Not every feeling needs a story. Not every pause needs an explanation. You trust that meaning reveals itself when it's ready. There's also a shift in how you relate to people. You're less reactive to expectations, less affected by opinions that don't align with your values. You don't withdraw, you stay open, but grounded. You can listen without absorbing. You can care without carrying. That balance didn't come from detachment. It came from understanding your own boundaries. You're also more patient with change. You don't demand instant transformation. You let things evolve naturally. You understand now that growth isn't always visible. Sometimes it's happening in how you breathe through discomfort, in how you pause instead of push, in how you choose clarity over familiarity. This phase isn't about becoming someone new. It's about returning to what was always steady within you. Still unfolding, still integrating, not complete yet. As this awareness deepens, you begin to realize how much of your life was once shaped by noise. Noise from expectations, noise from urgency, noise from trying to keep up with versions of yourself that no longer exist. Now that noise doesn't disappear all at once, but it loses authority. You don't let it decide your direction anymore. You notice how your attention naturally returns to what feels stable, not what excites you briefly, not what demands you prove something, but what supports you consistently. That's a new form of intelligence you're developing. You're also becoming more honest about effort. You can tell the difference between effort that builds you and effort that slowly erodes you. You stop glorifying exhaustion. You stop mistaking tension for importance. You understand now that sustainable movement feels different. It doesn't rush you. It doesn't drain you. It doesn't require you to abandon yourself to keep going. There's a quiet confidence growing here, not the kind that needs validation, but the kind that stays steady even when nothing is confirmed yet. You don't need to announce plans. You don't need to explain transitions. You let things unfold in their own time. You trust that what's real will reveal itself through consistency, not pressure. You're also noticing how differently you respond to discomfort. You don't immediately escape it. You sit with it long enough to understand what it's asking for. Sometimes it's asking for rest, sometimes for honesty, sometimes for a boundary you've been postponing. You listen now. And because you do, your reactions soften, your decisions feel cleaner, your energy stops leaking into places that don't nourish you. This phase is teaching you discernment, not through rules, but through experience. You recognize when something is familiar but no longer aligned. You recognize when something is challenging but deeply right. You don't confuse the two anymore. You also stop needing certainty before taking small steps. You allow clarity to build through motion. You allow trust to form through repetition. You're not reckless, you're responsive. There's a growing sense that you don't have to rush into the future. The future is already adjusting to who you're becoming. And that realization changes how you hold the present. You're less tense, less defensive, less consumed by what if. You stay closer to what is. This doesn't make life smaller, it makes it more precise. You choose conversations that feel honest. You choose commitments that feel manageable. You choose rhythms that support your nervous system, not overwhelm it. That's not avoidance, that's wisdom. You're also beginning to understand that not everything needs to be resolved to move forward. Some things clarify only after time passes. Some answers come after space is created. You give yourself permission to not know yet. And in that permission, something important happens. Your self-trust strengthens. You realize you don't need to control outcomes to stay grounded. You need to stay connected to yourself. This phase isn't asking you to be perfect. It's asking you to be present, still unfolding, still expanding, not finished yet.
And this is where it rests. Not as an ending, but as a return. You no longer search for certainty outside yourself. You recognize it in how steady you feel moving forward, in how you no longer abandon yourself to keep pace, in how clarity arrives without force. You understand now that growth didn't ask you to become someone else. It asked you to stop leaving who you already were. You don't rush the next step. You don't fear it either. You trust that whatever comes next will meet you aligned, aware, and grounded. You didn't miss your moment. You were becoming capable of holding it. And now you are.